From the pit to the palace.
Today, we're diving into the powerful story of Joseph,
A young man who went from a pit to a prison and finally to a palace.
His journey shows us that no matter where you start, God's purpose for you will always prevail if you remain faithful.
Joseph was just a young man when God gave him a dream, a vision of greatness.
He saw himself in a position of power, with people bowing before him.
But instead of celebrating, his brothers became jealous. One day, out of jealousy and hatred,
His own brothers threw him into a deep,
dark pit and later sold him as a slave. Imagine the pain, betrayed by the very people he loved. Maybe you've experienced something similar.
people you trusted turned against you. But Joseph's story teaches us that even in betrayal, God is still in control.
Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold to Potiphar, a high-ranking officer. Even as a slave, he remained faithful, and God's favor was upon him. Potiphar saw this and put Joseph in charge of everything.
But just when things were looking up, he was falsely accused and thrown into prison. Can you imagine?
First the pit, now prison. It seemed like Joseph was moving further away from his destiny. Maybe you feel the same. Like every time you take a step forward,
Something pushes you to steps back.
but setbacks are often setups for a greater comeback. Even in prison, Joseph remained faithful. He interpreted dreams for Pharaoh's officials, and one day, his gift made room for him.
Pharaoh himself had a troubling dream, and Joseph was called to interpret it.
With God's wisdom, Joseph revealed the meaning of the dream, predicting 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine.
Pharaoh was so impressed that he made
Joseph the second in command over all of Egypt. Joseph went from the pit to the palace in God's perfect timing. He was no longer a slave or a prisoner, he was a ruler. The very dream that seemed impossible years ago became reality.
And in a powerful moment, his brothers who once betrayed him bowed before him.
Just as his dream had foretold.
But Joseph didn't seek revenge.
Instead, he told them,
You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Genesis 50-20.
Joseph's story proves that no matter how deep the pit, God can still elevate you to the palace. Your trials are not the end of your story, they
A stepping stone to your God-ordained destiny.
God's timing is perfect. Even if it takes years, his promises will come to pass.
Forgiveness brings freedom.
Joseph forgave his brothers, showing us that letting go is part of walking in purpose.
Maybe you're in a pit season right now,
Maybe you feel trapped, forgotten, or overlooked.
but God has not abandoned you.
Your palace moment is coming,
Stay faithful, trust his plan.
and watch how he turns your setbacks into a supernatural comeback.
If this message blessed you,
Type Amen in the comments and share it with someone who needs encouragement.